Well, hello there, 792 classmates. Here is the dissertation review that I have done for this course. Let me tell you about what I'm up to here first, and so what you'll see in my presentation, talk a little bit about the author, the study, what my interest was in this particular dissertation, and then I'll tell you about my review process, and then the strengths and limitations of what I found anyway in this dissertation, and then some reflection on the whole review process and how that will help me as I go forth in my own dissertation work. So the dissertation that I chose was from Melissa Williams. She graduated from the University of Alabama in 2009, and it is titled The Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act of 1974, Issues and Applications. And the best known acronym for that is FERPA, so you'll hear me talk about that a little bit in this presentation. So Dr. Williams, there she is right there, look at her, she's smiling. You know why she's smiling? Because she's done. She's graduated, dissertation is finished. And she should, because it was a great paper, and I really enjoyed reading it. But currently she is principal at Woodland High School in Bartow County, Georgia. And she did her dissertation, well, all of her doctorate work was at the University of Alabama, which was founded in 1831. It's a public research institution in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. And historically, they're pretty decent at football, but they will likely get beat by the University of Wisconsin on September 5th, 2015. Go Bucky. Right, so this study, what it was, it examined issues related to FERPA that ended up in federal and state courts. And then Dr. Williams summarized the trends of those findings that took place in those cases. And then toward the end of the dissertation, you know, how the whole thing wrapped up was that she described actually a few dozen, I think it was 41 different principles and procedures about FERPA that educational leaders should know. And the data from the study came from analysis of documents. Primarily, they were court decisions that she had analyzed, but then she also looked at educational and legal journals to inform all of her research questions. So my interest in this paper, in this dissertation, was that I really enjoyed policy and legal issues and actually had considered becoming an attorney, or going into law anyway. I considered law before I chose to go into education. And I certainly don't regret that I went into education because it's a career I greatly enjoy. But this type of work, this kind of research, reading about it, and then maybe venturing off into some policy research myself, that kind of helps bring together all of those fields with politics, law, and education. And there's also a practical reason for me choosing this particular dissertation, and that was because it helps me build my own background knowledge about privacy. Which is where I hope my dissertation will be, and especially FERPA. That's like the key piece of legislation that guides all of our activities in schools when it comes to data privacy. And so this dissertation really helped me start my own reading list as I prep for writing my own lit review. And then finally I was interested in this dissertation just because of the use of document analysis as a methodology, and that's something that I plan to do for my dissertation. My research interest is in examining district board policy books just to see how they address federal regulations when it comes to student data privacy. So my review process was really focused on the dissertation review form. I found that was a very helpful tool, so thank you, Dr. Rouse, for that. I love the organization and the clarity that document provided, and it really helped me digest the many different types of dissertations that I had considered and then finally read for this project. So my method was I wanted to make sure that I read each dissertation in order. And had I followed the exact layout of the review form, that wouldn't have happened. So I read each dissertation in order, and then just to find my appropriate place in the rubric, I would just use the Command F feature and just jump down to that section of the review form. So this helped keep me in the order that the researcher intended for the dissertation, rather than jumping back and forth in order to just follow the order that the rubric might have you do. And one of the struggles I had with doing the review was that trying to figure out, okay, is this adequate or is it excellent? And I didn't feel like that, I had that knowledge in order to, say which one it was. But after I met with Dr. Rouse, asked her that same question, she prompted me in asking, does the researcher really seem like they know what they're talking about? So that was helpful. And then another thing that I did was I just kept going back to Joyner's text to compare the dissertation with what Joyner and crew had suggested. So if the researcher's work followed all the suggestions that were in Joyner, then I would rate it as excellent. So thinking about this particular study, the strengths of Dr. Williams' dissertation was extremely thorough. This thing came in at 456 pages when you went from title page to the very end. And it wasn't just a lot of fluff and front and back matter or anything like that. Each chapter of the dissertation, really showed evidence that she understood the topic and the research process itself. The methods chapter made it very clear to me how she conducted her study. That was incredibly helpful. As that will help me as I move forward in my own dissertation. And just another example of this thoroughness is that she wrote a case briefing for 156 different privacy-related cases. So just that section really showed that she was someone who paid attention to detail and lots of details. And I would say the whole thing was just excellently written. And she's obviously a great writer, and I'm assuming that she benefited from some great editing as well. I didn't see any errors at all. And more important than just avoiding errors, her writing style was very clear. She sounded like an academic in her writing, but at the same time she wrote in a way that made it real easy for the reader to focus on the content and not be distracted by a word choice or a grammatical style. So I wouldn't call any of these weaknesses, but if I were asked to give suggestions to Dr. Williams about her dissertation from what I know, I would say that she should be more clear about how her study contributes to the knowledge in the area. After reading it, such a hefty piece that really made a lot of great points, I'd say yes, she certainly did make a contribution to the field. But I think it'd be important to specifically state that about what this study adds to it. Pointing out the gaps in the lit review too. That wasn't real obvious. She had pointed out some differences of opinions with different legal cases, but didn't really talk about gaps in knowledge that you would find in the research. And then just since this is such a lengthy paper, I think it really would have benefited more from more effort paid with the introductions and the summaries that were at the beginning and the ends of each chapter. Just because, again, it was such a long thing to read, it would have helped the reader a lot just to understand, here's what's coming up in this chapter. And then once you get to the end of the chapter, here's what happened, and here's where we're headed next. So just as I reflect on this whole process, it's been extremely helpful, and I know that's the whole point of this course. So it really does help me set up as I get ready to jump into dissertation land myself. But some key things that I'm taking away from this is just to be really formulaic with the research. And that certainly was evidenced in both the Joyner and the Kratwald texts, but especially with Joyner. It just really clearly lays out, here's how you write each chapter, here's how you write a paragraph, and then just do that over and over. So it certainly helps the reader, but then I think also as one who's doing the research and then writing it up, that will be incredibly helpful with me. Another thing, so as I was reading Dr. Williams' work was that I wondered, so like as she's writing this, how often is she in touch with her chair? Because she spent so much time writing each of these different pieces, or I'm assuming she spent a lot of time because of the length of what she had prepared. Was she meeting regularly with her chair? Was she checking in with her committee? Because I think that's important just because of use of time. I think we all want to finish our dissertation, do quality work, show that we can do the research, but then also finish, because I think that's important. So I want to make sure that I'm in touch with my chair and my committee, because I don't want to do a whole bunch of work that I realize is way off track and I have to do it over again.